All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the live stream. Happy Warrior Goddess Wednesday. I haven't done this in a little bit of a while, so apologies for that. Welcome to the Neurolinguistic Astrology Salon. I am Rachel Sabrina. I'm your host for this, and this show is all about using astrology and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, as a way to decipher and interpret and analyze the stars. And today is Nikola Tesla's birthday. And so I thought to myself, what better opportunity to have such a great figure in history, a character in history, of course, as well, to look at neurolinguistic astrology in action. So we're going to take a look at the stars in the sky right now from the perspective of where we're sitting in terms of the planets, the chart reading of the everlasting now, and then we'll get right into it. I'm going to do this. I was going to have a presentation all prepared, but I didn't have time. Like, what is time right now? It's all like going very, very fast. I don't know if you guys have felt the same way about how time just feels like it's like this spiral, this coil that's getting ever tighter and tighter. So I hope all of you are doing well out there in your soul missions and your superhero missions. And so let's get to it. I believe it's okay. So I was about to pull up the chart. Let's do the chart of the now, just to ground us and just to give you guys some perspective. I did this on TikTok the other day, but I've been using my synastry calendar lately. So I went through this period of time when I was a new astrologer. And when you're first learning astrology, when I first found astrology, it was like the whole world like blew up to me, or a whole new world blew up to me, actually. It was a matter of, but I also look at astrology as a navigation system as you decipher where you are in the story of your life, and then where your life story fits into the greater cosmic story. So that all sounds much more simple, perhaps, than it truly is. But here are today's current planets. Let's see. I'm going to make it a little bit. Apologies, it's been a little while since I've done this, my friends. Okay. So we've got the sun is in Cancer. So now remember, we're going to be doing Tesla's chart as well. And I always tell you guys when we're doing these readings that pretend that a baby is being born at this exact moment. And this would be the chart of what they would be, of the energies in the sky that they would be imprinted with. So we have a moon in Virgo. So the moon in Virgo is a very practical moon. It's very much like, I don't know, because the moon is ever changing, we can't say that Tesla would have had the same moon back in, when was he born? The heck? He died in 1943, but he was born in we'll get to that, 1856. So, spanning 2 centuries, I think there's something to be said for that when you span two centuries, but then again, that's another marker of time that's a little bit obtuse, perhaps. We have a crescent moon in the sky right now. Yours truly was also born under a crescent moon. Quick fact, the phase of the moon that you're born under also has some indication to and clues to your inner child, inner mother, your emotional world. So it being in Virgo's an earth sign, but also mutable, ruled by Mercury, so you end up But Virgo also opposes Pisces, so you end up with a much more grounded iteration of what Mercury is. Like, I have plants growing on my balcony, and I grew them all from seeds this time, and I was like, whoa, that is total magic, right? The ability to have, like, from a seed, that energy that it takes to spurt forward and grow, that is quite magical, and I feel like Virgo is very attuned to that type of magic. So we've got also Mercury is in Leo, which is the sign, or the planet rather, that represents memory and thought and all of that good stuff. We're not going to spend too much time with all the planetary ruler stuff. If you want to get my presentation on all the planetary rulers, I'm going to have that available in my reorganized Rachel Z Project website, just so you can easily find all my old articles, as well as upcoming writings that I am finally getting my ish together with. And I'm also I have a newsletter that's going to be going out On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Star Sailor Cosmos, which is just about also like the star, I guess, readings, dream readings, let's put it that way. Because right now, actually, that's a nice little jump to Neptune being in Pisces. This is kind of, let me move myself over here. You can see here it's on the 29th degree, but in the chart itself, look at that. Neptune is right here. And so fun story, tomorrow, if you join me on TikTok, I'm going to do a little bit of a reading with my practical graph and show you all like where each of the planets are sitting. And for a long time, I had lost my little stone representation symbol of Neptune. But now I found him. So all good news, I can actually do some stuff. So also, even though I'm a Taurus, which is a very earthy sign, I do have a trine, a very strong aspect to Neptune. So others, if you have an aspect to Neptune, for example, if you have a conjunction, like your sun's conjunct Neptune, or you have even oppositions or any kind of like major aspects with Neptune, you're going to find that you're very much attuned to the dream world, more so than most. I guess I can put it that way. Whether or not you realize that, or whether or not the society understands that, is a whole other thing. But I spent a lot of my life thinking I was like, or rather, I would retreat into my imagination world, and I built these whole grandiose places within that scape that are, I think I do have to give much more credit to and tend to those gardens a little bit more. And that's just a sign to all of us to tend to the gardens of our dream state a little bit more. As Neptune hangs out in this karmic degree, the omega point of the entire zodiac, as well as Pisces, and Pisces is already a dreamy sign. So we have a lot of that kind of activation going on. We'll do Tesla's chart very soon because I'm curious to see if he has, because the sun is still in Cancer right now. I don't know why, but I wouldn't have thought of Tesla as being a Cancer. I would have thought of him as being an Aquarius perhaps, or perhaps an air sign. But then again, as we get into a little bit of his bio, he wasn't able to necessarily like monetarily like turn his genius into monetary success, which I think some of us dreamers can relate to. So I'm curious to see if he's got aspects that kind of give clues to that. But before we do that, other things going on in the sky and the cosmos right now. We have Venus in Cancer. So this, my friend Sasha, I just saw she had a newsletter go out talking about Venus emerging from the underworld. Look at this 29th degree too as well. So if we look at Venus, where is my girlfriend? She's right here. So look at her. She's on a nice little, so if you're born, 29th degree is such a spicy degree. Like you're dealing with the omega points of things, right? And even I was talking about Jeannie Gray, omega level psychic. So this idea of the final point, the point where the Ouroboros, where the tail and the mouth touch, where a connection point. So that's a very intense point in the zodiac. It's an intense point in time space. So Venus being there, emerging from the underworld, and in Cancer. Cancer is exalted by the moon, but also is about love, security, mother, the great mother, like the great goddess of earth, and the fact that Earth and Venus are very close sisters, and they like that there's also an interaction between those two planetary bodies as well that we don't quite understand, but we can feel that. So from that perspective, also the sun is still in the same sign as what Venus is in. So the sun will add fuel to that power of love, let's say, happening right now. I think that's where I'll leave it today in terms of like the reading of the now. I don't want to spend too much time because I do have to get to my fun comic book read. I'm doing Superwoman later if you want to join, because Superwoman, I'm not gonna go on a tangent. I'll stop myself. That's just a tip for you guys. Come check that out. All right, so Nikola Tesla, it is his birthday today. Solar return, rather. I'm trying to change the verbiage of that. I feel like birthday, feeds into the whole aging trap of like the construct of like getting older and whatnot. And not to say you don't want to like age gracefully and have wisdom, of course. It's just, be aware of like us just marking time and then falling into like I am identifying with the time. So I saw something here like in terms of, let's look to like a history thing. Okay, so first of all, let me just make sure I get his birthday biography. Everyone knows this picture. And also, one of my tarot cards, my decks, the magician card is Tesla, basically, which is on like the thumbnail that I used, because like this is like brings it all together with neurolinguistic astrology, right? So Nikola Tesla was an engineer and inventor. So let me just get here. He died at age 86 in January 1943. Oh, he died in January. I don't think it went. Okay, so let's just go here. No, I don't want to. Here we go. Yeah, July 10th, 1856. So let's put that in here. So you can use this calculator as well. I like this one a lot. If you get a reading with me, I'll typically use this calculator with you. It's also good for running things like synastry. So what did we say here? He was born today, July 10th. I'm sneaking this in, right? What was that? Previous century to 1856. He like didn't live. He lived longer than. Okay, so 18. It's a shame that not a lot more of his work has survived. 1856. Okay. Time. Would they tell me? Would I know that? Oh man, how are we like? Okay, well I'll put. When do you guys think that Nikola Tesla was born, like time-wise? Let's put him at a cuspy time, like right now, like 12, not 12 p.m. Let's do 12 a.m. And then when did they say it was? Oh my gosh, SMIL. I'm not gonna try to. Croatia. Amazing. Okay, so let's calculate the chart. So first off, Sun in Cancer, Moon in Libra. Okay, I could see that. I wasn't expecting the moon to be in an air sign, but let's see what else is going on here. Crescent moon, which, cool, just like me. We always tend to find affinity with those characters that we can relate to. And I can relate to Tesla in the sense of, I think we'll get into why the Libra moon could make sense for him. Mercury is in Libra. Venus is in Cancer, which is like now. Mars is in Libra. Okay, so the Mars and the moon are together. That could make sense. Jupiter in Aries, Saturn in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces. Oh, crazy. So he was born with Neptune in Pisces. I'm interested in Neptune's orbit. Neptune is called the Lord of the Invisible Empire, which is a mysterious name of a mysterious planet. Perhaps we could describe it as a dimension of life that cannot be experienced by our five senses, and we can only understand and perceive it in our imagination. So let's see here. Neptune in Pisces is in its own sign. These people are idealistic and often very religious. They have a gift of natural faith. So it's also in the 12th house. Wow. In Pisces and in the 12th house and in retrograde. Trine the sun. Me too. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I knew that's why I Yeah, so this chart makes sense to me. It might be, so things that would change if the birth time wasn't quite right would be, how does this put his ascending sign? In Taurus. Wow. But Pluto's right there. Look at that. So there's like this understanding of the underworld. I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie The Prestige, but David Bowie plays Tesla in that, and it's just an interesting idea there of magic. And then you're dealing with like almost like the occult and stuff, which is what Pluto is like, its jam. And so having it there in Taurus, that's a very I'm gonna put that in my like back pocket and take forward later for further analysis, as this is the first time I'm looking at this and we're doing it live. I may do, so like for example, if you don't know what your birth time is, of course, like you can put in like I would try running this again, which is called, I think, you're rectifying your birth chart, to try to see if certain things fit, because I do think that there's an instance of like your ascending sign, which is your rising sign, has to do a lot with the mask, your persona, as to how you're playing the game of life. And so I don't know, I think it's because Pluto's there, that's probably what gives him more of that like Plutonian look to him. As I'm like, I don't know, like the Taurus thing is an interesting thing, right? Considering that he like could never figure out how to like monetarily support himself with his invention. So let's go back to some of his bio, just to let you guys know a bit about Tesla, not to be confused with the electric car, Mr. Elon Musk. I have my own opinions about that guy. Okay. So, Serbian engineer and physicist Nikola Tesla, put this over here, 1856, which we put in this chart, to 1943, made dozens of breakthroughs in the production, transmission, and application of electric power. He invented the first alternating current AC monitor and developed AC generation and transmission technology. Although he was famous and respected, he was never able to translate his copious inventions into long-term financial successes. So there's a big, the rivalry between Edison and Tesla. But I think there's, of course, more to it than we know. There's always a secret hidden history of things, I think. Let me just move this. Okay. So let's read a little bit more, and then I'm going to go into Tesla's death chart, and then we will leave that for the live show, and I will create a little post about this at the Rachel Z Project, my website, just to go into a bit more depth as I do more of what I told you guys about rectifying the chart, and as well as what Tesla's archetype is, because a lot of what I do with the comic book readings and stories and cosplay and all that kind of stuff is to really explore archetypal aspects of ourselves and how those aspects play within each other and how they play with others. And so if we let's look at a little bit more at like what Tesla's character is about. So he was born 1856 in, I'm not going to butcher that pronunciation, in Croatia. His father was a priest in the Serbian Orthodox Church, and his mother managed the family's farm. Now, this is an interesting part here, because this reminds me of like Jean Grey's, when she like activated her powers. Like she had a similar kind of thing happen to her, so it's just interesting. So in 1863, Tesla's brother Daniel was killed in a riding accident. The shock of this loss unsettled the 7-year-old Tesla, who reported seeing visions, the first sign of his lifelong mental illnesses. Now, like, I love how they just like ascribe it to this whole idea, like it must be a mental illness, not that like perhaps he was in contact with his brother after he passed, but whatever. But I didn't know this. Did you know that during the 1890s, Mark Twain struck up a friendship with inventor Nikola Tesla? Twain often visited him in the lab, where in 1894, Tesla photographed the great American writer in one of the first pictures ever lit by phosphorescent light. Tesla studied math and physics at the Technical University of Graz and philosophy at the University of Prague. In 1882, while on a walk, he came up with the idea for a brushless AC motor, making the first sketches of his rotating electromagnets in the sand of the path. Later that year, he moved to Paris and got a job repairing direct current power plants with the Continental Edison Company. 2 years later, he immigrated to the United States. So Tesla arrived in New York in 1884 and was hired as an engineer at Thomas Edison's Manhattan headquarters. He worked there for a year, impressing Edison with his diligence and ingenuity. So interesting. Oh my gosh. At one point, Edison told Tesla he would pay $50,000 for an improved design for his DC dynamos. After months of experimentation, Tesla presented a solution and asked for the money. Edison demurred, saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." And Tesla quit soon after. So interesting. So I feel like it's like this whole business part of Tesla he couldn't quite figure out. Let's see why that could be the case here. I think it's all of this stuff happening in Libra. So I love Libra, right? My hubby's a Libra, but like all this stuff in Libra, especially this whole part where the Mars is at 18 degrees and the moon is at 14 degrees. They're close together. So your inner child, your inner emotional self, that whole trauma that happened to him when he was 7, that marked him, right? And so that's going to impact his ability to actually even do anything. So he would never, I think he's, like, Libra's also like justice and fairness ruled by Venus, and he is going to play fair in a world that doesn't. And so it's just craziness. Like, he just wants to work hard. It would have been better if he had a partner, like a real partner. If he had a wifey who actually like could see, protect him a little bit from people who might swindle him, because he's just like couldn't conceive perhaps of people taking advantage of him. But look at this also, the South Node. And so South Node deals a lot with like past lives and this idea of like the tail of the dragon, lessons that have already been learned. Sometimes we are karmically pulled into these loops again to do things the way that and so I feel like here with Tesla, like there's, oh man, the North Node, like the lesson was for him to like stand in himself and like be who he was, right? But it was really hard for him. I feel terrible for him when it comes to that kind of stuff. It was a little bit of a tragedy if we think about it, and we still don't really know the full breadth of what his inventions could have done for the world. Let's see if there's anything else here that's interesting before I move on into the death chart, and then we can wrap. So let's see. The Tesla coil. Yes. In the 1890s, Tesla invented electric oscillators, meters, improved lights, and the high voltage transformer known as the Tesla coil. He also experimented with X-rays, gave short-range demonstrations of radio communication 2 years before Guillermo Macaroni, and piloted a radio-controlled boat around a pool in Madison Square Garden. That's interesting. So this boat thing, I feel like in Love, Death, and Robots, oh my gosh, Zika Blue, they have this scene. I'm going to cut that into the replay of this, where it's almost like a throwback to that. This idea of like technology and evolution and not losing your humanity in the process. Tesla death ray. In 1895, does this play? No. In 1895, Tesla's New York lab burned, destroying years. Oh my gosh. This is sketchy. Yeah. Maybe I'll save that for another one. Like the death chart and like weird sketchy things against Tesla. But today's his solar return day, so I wanted to give an ode to Mr. Nikola Tesla, our magician, our alchemist. And so maybe there's a way of us retrieving some of these old works if they're in the ether. Okay. I always hate it when I look at the video afterwards. I'm like, I had like a flyaway. I never moved it. Okay, so in 1895, so he was in New York. The New York lab burned, destroying years' worth of notes and equipment. So he relocated to Colorado Springs for 2 years, returning to New York again in 1900. So interesting at this turn of the century. He secured financing from J.P. Morgan and began building a global communications network centered on a giant tower on Long Island. But funds ran out, and J.P. Morgan balked at Tesla's grandiose schemes. Tesla lived his last decades in a New York hotel, working on new inventions, even as his energy and mental health faded. His obsession with the number 3, and fastidious washing were dismissed as eccentricities of genius. He spent his final years feeding and, he claimed, communicating with the city's pigeons. And he died in his room on January 7th, 1943. And wow. The AC system that he championed and proved remains the global standard for power transmission. Power is power. Yeah. Oh, Tesla. You just needed better friends. Okay, so let's do the death chart. What did they say here? January 7th, 1943. 1943. And then I'm going to do this same thing. Do midnight. Something about, the mid time, right? Like the 0 point. It's a good place to start, even if that's not necessarily the case. And it was in New York, right? New York itself as a city is super esoteric. I spent some time there before I moved here to Toronto. Okay, so Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Capricorn with a new moon. Oh, interesting. So he died at the start of a lunar cycle. Oh, with the moon in the 4th house. With it, yeah, that's craziness. So like brand new start. So the new moon is also like a dark moon, right? It's like before the moon has any like luminosity or brightness. Not quite a balsamic, right? But it's about like, it's interesting. So like as he left this realm, it's like beginning a new phase. Let's see her conjunction with the sun. Let's look at what the chart actually just looks like in terms of it. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at where Neptune is. This 1 degree. That's crazy. Okay, yeah. So I don't know how he passed. It makes it seem like he was just like kind of like diminished away, like his mental health and whatnot, which is what makes me say like, like all that stuff in Libra in his birth chart also just kind of makes me think that if he just had friends and better partners and those who actually saw things as being just and fair, because he would have done all the work. And I don't really think that he wanted like much money. I think he just wanted to be able to like do his work, like see if it would, like where that genius comes from, all the ideas from like idealistic ways of thinking, that he just needed some like more earthy friends, ones that weren't like taking advantage of him like Edison, or didn't understand him, ones who actually could see his genius for what it is and like could see how that could be brought to life. So Nikola Tesla was born on July 10th. Yeah, I've gotten the final hours of that, but let me see. This deserves another look, I think, in terms of looking at his inventions. There's some stuff there in terms of getting inspiration, especially with his Taurus stuff, of inspiration from nature herself when it comes to technology, and really looking and reframing our definition of tech. So Nikola Tesla had 112 patents. What an interesting number. And he was obsessed with the number 3. Interesting. Electrical transformer. Wow. Crazy. Dynamo electric machine, electromagnetic motor, method of operating arc lamps, system of transmission of electrical energy, There's a Nikola Tesla museum. I wonder who, like, gets all this stuff. Look at all this. Patents. What are patents? And in 1915, Tesla was devastated that Thomas Edison won the Nobel Prize instead of himself, or whatever, the Nobel Prize. The press had reported that Tesla would... Oh. Why were they so mean to him? Oh, they were thinking he was, like, outlandish, and, like, I feel like Tesla should have had a bit more fun with what he was trying to do. Like, maybe if he... But that fire that burned down a lot of his work probably set him back quite a bit. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, let's not be confused with, like, that other Tesla stuff. That's what this place likes to do too, like confuse you with, like, different meanings. But all right, that I think takes care of that. I'm just going to take one more look at the death chart and see if anything else jumps out. We do have Saturn's in Gemini, Uranus is in Gemini. I feel like that's like a shift of some sort. Let's look at the north and south nodes. South node in Aquarius. Oh, that's interesting. Especially since I associate Tesla a lot with, like, Aquarius things. And so, like, him leaving this dimension and, like, the south node being there as well, is that it's almost like this, like, strange lost opportunity, a lost timeline of what we could have had we actually, you know, knew how to stand on the shoulders of what Tesla's work was, really, and, like, not, like, still just be stuck figuring out, like, from, like, scraps of paper and notebooks of, like, what he was talking about. And also, like, what happened in that fire? But, you know, the stuff in Capricorn, the moon and the sun being there, and then also Venus being there as well, all in the fourth house, it's all just, like, at home, right? So he did die at home in New York City, but at home was, like, a hotel room, right? So it was, like, he went home, you know, like, this world wasn't very kind to him and didn't really appreciate a lot of what his genius was. Like, a lot of that's, you know, like, before your time. Even as I watch, like, Mozart, a lot of geniuses, you're like, oh, they just have quirks, that kind of thing. But what if everyone's a genius and then everyone just has their quirks? And it's not about, like, being like, oh, like, that's over here. It's about maybe seeing the truth behind a lot of what seems really outlandish and out there, because that's how you really break the barrier. That's how you get evolution. That's how we take steps forward into the next stage of existence and what it is to be a human being. And so thank you, Nikola Tesla, for all that you've done, even though this world was quite a bit unkind. So thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Neurolinguistic Astrology Live, where we went over Nikola Tesla's birth chart. It is his solar return today. He's a Cancer, though, right? With what did I say his moon was in? Oh my gosh, moon in Libra. That's right. Yeah. So that's interesting as well, right? Because when you think of, like, those later signs, there's also a level of almost, like, knowing too much. And he did lose his brother quite young. So this awareness of there's more than what is seen, and, you know, trying to communicate that is not easy, no matter who you are. So I think what's happening in the cosmos right now, as I told you guys at the top of this show, is that there's a lot happening in the, like, omega degree of the zodiac. And so what does that mean for you at a personal level? Well, it means that your own personal dreams, your own personal goals are all amplified and mirrored by the greater cosmos. So just bear that in mind. Spiritual hygiene and empowering yourself, like, as I told you guys, like, I feel like Tesla would have turned out a whole lot differently if he just had better friends around. He had a nice wifey who would, like, take care. And, like, you know, when you have crazy ideas like what I've been in, like, project management stuff, like, just a way of synthesizing, like, you know, when you have a sword, like, to my air signs, like, once you mold it, you still have to, like, chip away at it, put it through the forge and the fire until it's finally its final form. So that's what we're in right now, guys. We're in the fire, about to be our final form, until we are ready to, when the moment comes, strike the blow that needs to be struck. And that can mean many things symbolically. All right, my friends, have a good one. And until next time, stay magical. And I'll see you all